welcome to Unlocking Passion. Men Report. Let's begin with a new story. Richard Sommerfeld opened an envelope from his Deutsche Bank and found inside a threat of forced enforcement against assets he no longer possessed, for debts he could never repay. 270,000 euros borrowed, transferred, and lost to a 29-year-old woman who had called him her soulmate and promised him eternity. He sat in a cramped studio in Pattaya and stared at letters demanding payments for loans he had taken out to save a woman who had never been in danger. The woman he had met on a dating app, who spoke fluent German, who seemed educated and independent, had systematically destroyed him over 14 months while he believed every word she said. Richard was 66 years old, thousands of kilometers away from Stuttgart, with a negative net worth and no way back. The woman who had called him my darling and cried about loan sharks threatening her family had disappeared, leaving him drowning in debts he had accumulated to rescue her from problems that had never existed. But 14 months earlier, when he sat in his empty apartment in Stuttgart 2 years after his divorce, Richard had no idea what was coming for him. 14 months earlier, he thought Thailand would save him from the loneliness that was crushing him after 40 years of marriage had ended in bitter failure. He thought he was being careful, choosing the right way to date. Instead, he walked straight into the most sophisticated scam of his life, one that did not only take what he had, but stole his future. If you enjoy the stories I create, please consider pressing the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me find time to create these videos, despite my full-time job. Thank you for being here. Richard Sommerfeld, everyone called him Rick, turned 66 on a gray February morning in 2024, alone in his apartment in Stuttgart Feuerbach. His divorce from Brigitte had become final 8 months earlier, ending 40 years of marriage with the stroke of a judge's pen. Rick had worked for 38 years as a logistics manager for a large automotive supplier, starting at 28 as a warehouse employee, working his way up through disciplines and precision, typical German work ethic. When he took early retirement, he was managing supply chains for factories across Europe. The job paid well, 85,000 euros annually by the end, but it devoured him. 16-hour days, constant stress, international calls at midnight. Brigitte had complained for years that he was married to his job, not to her. He had always promised to change, to slow down, to prioritize the family. He never did, and eventually she stopped asking. They had raised 2 children. Stefan, now 43 and living in Berlin, and Claudia, 40, in Munich. Both were successful, busy, distant. They called on birthdays, at Christmas, sent polite text messages, rarely visited. When Brigitte told him she wanted a divorce, Rick felt more relief than grief. Their marriage had been dead for years. They lived in the same house, but barely spoke, ate in silence, slept in separate rooms. The divorce only made official what had been true for a decade. The settlement divided everything. The house was sold for 450,000 euros. After paying off the mortgage and legal fees, they each received 190,000. Rick also had his pension. He had taken it early and received a portion of the full benefits, about 3,000 euros monthly. Total wealth, 350,000 euros in savings and investments, plus his monthly pension. Comfortable, secure, enough to live well for the rest of his life if he was sensible. or enough to lose everything and fall deeply into debt if he was not. Stuttgart in winter was depressing, cold, gray, industrial. Rick's apartment was in a modern building in Feuerbach. Technically nice, but soulless. White walls, IKEA furniture, no personality. It felt like a hotel room, not a home. The loneliness was suffocating. Not the sad loneliness of a fresh divorce, but something darker. The realization that he had spent 40 years building a life that meant nothing. His children barely knew him. His ex-wife was already seeing someone else. His colleagues had moved on. He tried dating, created profiles on Parship and Elite Partner, wrote to women his age, went on a few dates. One woman talked about her ex-husband the entire time. Another clearly wanted financial security more than companionship. A third was nice but boring. He felt nothing. German women his age seemed exhausted. They carried baggage from failed marriages, adult children, decades of disappointment. Rick did not want to be someone's second attempt to repair what had gone wrong the first time. One evening in March, unable to sleep, Rick began watching YouTube videos about retirement abroad. The algorithm showed him content about Thailand, Germans living in Phuket and Pattaya, talking about the weather, the affordable lifestyle, the friendly culture, but also about the women. Older German men with younger Thai partners, couples who seemed genuinely happy, laughing, enjoying life in a way that seemed impossible in Stuttgart. Rick told himself that was not the attraction. He was interested in the culture, the adventure, the possibility of starting over somewhere warm and welcoming. But late at night, alone in his sterile apartment, he thought about companionship, about feeling wanted again, about meaning something to someone. Thailand felt less like a destination and more like an answer. In April, Rick made his decision. He would take his early retirement money, sell his remaining possessions, and move to Thailand. Not permanently at first, maybe 6 months to see if he liked it, but long enough to escape Stuttgart, the cold, the loneliness, the memory of 40 wasted years. His children were not happy. Stefan called and sounded annoyed. "Papa, this seems impulsive. Have you even been to Thailand before?" "I have done my research. Many Germans retire there successfully. But you don't know anyone. What if you don't like it? Then I will come back." "But I can't stay here, Stefan. This apartment, this city, everything reminds me that I have nothing. You have us. Do I? You are in Berlin. Claudia is in Munich. I see you twice a year. Let's not pretend I have a close family keeping me here." "Silence then. Just be careful. I have heard stories about foreigners getting scammed in Thailand. I am not an idiot. I managed supply chains for 38 years. I know how to assess risk." Famous last words. Rick sold his car, his furniture, everything besides what fit into 2 suitcases. He gave some possessions to his children, family photos, his father's watch, things he wanted to leave them. On May 10, 2024, Rick locked his empty apartment, took a taxi to Stuttgart Airport, and boarded a flight to Bangkok with a connection to Phuket. 2 suitcases, an open return ticket, 350,000 euros in various accounts. His entire life reduced to luggage and numbers on screens. As the plane took off, Stuttgart disappeared beneath the clouds. Rick ordered a beer and tried to feel excited, instead of frightened, about what he was leaving behind and what he was flying toward. Phuket's heat was overwhelming. 36 degrees at midday, with humidity that made breathing feel like work. After Stuttgart's spring cold, the heat felt almost aggressive, but also liberating, as if the weather itself was announcing that this was a completely different place. Rick had booked a serviced apartment in Patong for the first month. 18,000 baht monthly, about 450 euros. Nice building, pool, gym, walking distance to the beach. The apartment was clean and modern, though a bit small. But it was his, and that was enough. Phuket was different from what he expected. More developed, more touristy, more expensive than the YouTube videos had suggested. Patong Beach was crowded with tourists, vendors, and bars. The quieter areas were nicer, Kata Karan, Rawai, but also more isolated. Everything was still cheap by German standards. A full meal in a local restaurant cost 80 to 100 baht, under 3 euros. Beer cost 40 baht. Massages were 200 baht for an hour, 5 euros. Rick constantly made mental calculations. If he rented a nice apartment for 15,000 baht monthly, 375 euros, and spent another 20,000 on food and activities, he could live comfortably on 35,000 baht. That was 875 euros monthly. His pension was 3,500, so he would save over 2,500 monthly while living better than in Stuttgart. 350,000 euros could last him decades. He would never have to touch his capital. But the loneliness followed him from Germany. He watched couples, older Western men with younger Thai women, yes, but also tourist families, Thai couples, and he felt that familiar ache. He ate dinner alone, walked alone on the beach, returned alone to his empty apartment. After 2 weeks, Rick created a profile on ThaiCupid, one of the larger dating apps. He was honest, a current photo showing a 66-year-old man with gray hair and a modest build. No lies about age or situation. His bio said he was recently retired, new to Phuket, looking for a genuine connection. He received many messages. Most were obvious. Profiles with glamour shots, bios that mentioned being flexible or open-minded. He ignored them. Then he received a message from someone different. Her name was Tamon Van, although she called herself Lena. 29, according to her profile. The photo showed an attractive woman in professional clothing. Business casual, minimal makeup, real smiles. Her bio said she was a freelance translator and social media consultant for tourism companies, educated, looking for someone mature and stable. Her message was thoughtful. Hello, Richard. I saw your profile and appreciated how honest you seem. I am not interested in games or sugar daddy arrangements. I have my own career and my own income. But I would like to meet someone genuine who wants real companionship. If that sounds interesting, I would be happy to chat. It felt different. More mature, less transactional. Rick replied. Hello, Lena. Thank you for reaching out. Your message stands out from the others. I'd definitely be interested in getting to know you. Maybe we could meet for coffee sometime. They wrote for 5 days before meeting. She asked intelligent questions about his life. Why Thailand? What he had done before retirement? What he was looking for? Rick asked about hers. She said she had studied English and German at university in Bangkok, worked in tourism marketing, did freelance translation work. I am not a bar girl, she wrote. I know many foreign men come here and look for that, but that is not me. I have education, a career, goals. I want a real relationship with someone who respects that. That reassured Rick. This was not someone looking for handouts. This was an educated professional who wanted real connection. They agreed to meet at a cafe in Patong. Rick arrived early, nervous. When Lena walked in, she looked exactly like her photos. Professional, well-groomed, confident. She wore a nice dress, carried a leather handbag, spoke German with a slight accent. "Rick," she smiled warmly. "So nice to finally meet you. You too. Your German is excellent. I studied it at university. I love the language, the precision. Very different from Thai." They talked for 4 hours. She was articulate, funny, asked good questions. She told him about her family, middle class. Her father owned a small business in Bangkok. Her mother was a retired teacher. They had supported her education, expected her to be independent. "Many Western men come here with stereotypes," she said. "They think all Thai women are bar girls or gold diggers. But Thailand has female doctors, lawyers, businesswomen. I am simply someone who happens to be single and open to meeting someone from abroad." Rick told her about his divorce, his children, his decision to come to Thailand. She listened attentively, asked thoughtful questions, seemed truly interested. "You seem like a good man," she said as they were leaving. "I would like to see you again if you are interested." "I am very interested." They began dating properly. She had her own life. Work she did from home, clients she met, friends she had dinner with. She was not clingy or demanding. She usually paid for herself and insisted on having her own money. "I want this to be about us," she said. "Not about your wallet." That made Rick trust her more. This was not someone looking for a sugar daddy. This was someone who wanted an equal partnership. They took their time, dating for 3 weeks before becoming intimate. When they finally did, it felt natural, adults choosing to be together, not a transaction. After 6 weeks, Lena began occasionally staying overnight at his apartment, not moving in, just spending a few nights a week. She brought her laptop, worked from his place, sometimes cooked dinner. It felt domestic in a way Rick had not experienced for years. Everything seemed perfect. Too perfect, perhaps, but Rick ignored the small voice warning him that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. 2 months into their relationship, Lena mentioned that her mother was ill. They were having dinner at a nice restaurant in Kata Beach. Lena had been quiet all evening, distracted. Rick finally asked what was wrong. "It is my mother," she said softly. "She has health problems. The doctors think it could be serious." "What kind of problems?" "Heart problems. She needs tests, but they are expensive. The public hospital has a 6-month waiting list and private hospitals want payment in advance." "How much?" 60,000 baht for the full cardiology examination, about 1,500 euros. She shook her head. "It is too much. We will figure something out." 1,500 euros. Nothing for Rick. Potentially life-saving for her mother. "Let me help," Rick said. "No, I can't. Lena, it is 1,500 euros. I have savings. If your mother needs medical care, of course I will help." Tears formed in her eyes. "Are you sure? I do not want you to think I am with you because of money. I do not think that. You have paid your own way the whole time. This is different. This is a family emergency. Of course I will help." He transferred 60,000 baht the next day. Lena cried with gratitude and said he was saving her mother's life, that she would never forget it. 2 weeks later, the tests showed that her mother needed surgery. Another 80,000 baht, 2,000 euros. Again, Rick transferred it without hesitation. "You are an angel," Lena said. "I do not know how to thank you. You do not have to thank me. We are together. Your family is my family." That should have been the end. But the problems kept appearing. Her father's business was struggling. Could Rick lend 30,000 baht, just temporarily? Of course he could. Her apartment rent was overdue because a client had not paid her. 20,000 baht. Of course. She needed a new laptop for work. Her old one was broken. 40,000 baht. Obviously. Every request was plausible. Everyone came with proof, medical bills, rent notices, broken laptop. Every time Lena was hesitant, apologetic, promised to pay him back. And every time Rick gave without hesitation, because he loved her, and that was what partners did. By month 4, Rick had transferred about 200,000 baht, 5,000 euros. Not a huge amount, but more than planned. His savings had dropped from 350,000 to 345,000 euros. Still very comfortable. Still nothing to worry about. Just helping his girlfriend through some temporary difficulties. Then came the loan sharks. In month 5, Lena arrived at Rick's apartment crying. Real sobbing. She was frightened, shaking, barely able to speak. "What happened?" Rick asked, alarmed. "I did something stupid before I met you. I borrowed money. From whom? A loan shark. I needed money for my father's business. The bank would not give me a loan, so I went to someone else." "How much?" 200,000 baht. But with interest it has grown to 400,000, about 10,000 euros. And they are threatening me, threatening my family. She showed him text messages in Thai. Rick could not read them, but her translations were terrifying. Threats of violence, photos of her parents' house, warnings that they would come. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" I was ashamed. I thought I could handle it. I tried to pay them, but the interest keeps growing. Now they want everything at once, or they will hurt my family. Rick felt protective anger rise inside him. Someone was threatening the woman he loved, threatening her family. "How much do you need to pay them off?" "The full amount. 400,000 baht. 10,000 euros. But I do not have it. I do not know what to do." 10,000 euros was a significant amount, but Rick had it. And if it kept Lena and her family safe. "I will pay it," he said. "No, I cannot ask you for that. You are not asking. I am offering. I will not let these people hurt you," she cried against his chest. "I do not deserve you. You are too good to me." He transferred 400,000 baht the next day. Lena said she had paid the loan sharks, showed them the money, and they had agreed to leave her alone. Rick felt good about it. He had saved her from a dangerous situation. He was her protector, her hero. His savings, 335,000 euros. Still comfortable, still safe. Just a temporary reduction to help someone he loved. But 2 weeks later, Lena came back crying. The loan sharks were not satisfied. They wanted another 200,000 as administrative fees for closing the account early. "That is nonsense," Rick said. "They are extorting you." "I know, but they have photos of my parents. They know where they live. If I do not pay, They will hurt them. Rick paid another 200,000 baht, 5,000 euros. Savings, 330,000 euros. Then another payment. Then another. Each time there was a new excuse. Interest recalculated, extra fees, threats requiring immediate payment. By month 8, Rick had transferred 750,000 baht, almost 20,000 euros, to deal with loan sharks who seemed endless. Savings, 330,000 euros. He began questioning the pattern. Every time he paid off a debt, new debts appeared. Every time he solved a problem, new problems emerged. Linus makes no sense. How much did you originally borrow? I told you, 200,000. And we have paid 950,000. Where is all this money going? Into interest. These people are criminals. They charge insane interest rates. Then let us go to the police. No, her face turned pale. If we go to the police, they will kill my family. These people have connections. The police cannot help. Rick felt trapped. If he stopped paying, her family would be hurt. If he kept paying, his savings would disappear. But what choice did he have? His daughter Claudia called in month 9. She had been sending regular text messages, and Rick had been vague about his finances. Papa, how are you really? You sound stressed. I am fine. I am just getting used to life here. How is your girlfriend, Lena? She is good. We are good. And financially, are you being careful? Rick hesitated. Of course, Papa. How much have you given her? I have not given her anything. I have helped with some family emergencies. How much? He did not want to answer. Maybe 30,000 total. Silence then, Papa. That is almost 10% of your savings. It is for real emergencies. Her mother's medical bills. Loan sharks threatening her family. Loan sharks. Papa, that is the oldest scam in Thailand. There are no loan sharks. There is no sick mother. It is all fake. You do not know that. You have not met her. I do not have to meet her. I have read about this. It is textbook. They invent fake emergencies that require immediate payment. You keep paying, thinking you are almost finished, but new problems keep appearing. Lena is not scamming me. She is educated, has her own career. Papa, please listen to me. Stop sending money. Come home before you lose everything. I am not coming home. This is my home now. He hung up, angry that his daughter did not understand, but doubt had been planted in his mind. Was Claudia right? He pushed the thoughts away. Lena loved him. They were building a life together. These were only temporary difficulties. By month 11, Rick's savings had dropped to 280,000 euros. He had transferred 70,000 euros fighting loan sharks who seemed infinite. Then Lena came with a new crisis. Her father's business was collapsing. Without an immediate capital injection, he would lose everything. The business, their family home, that had been used as collateral, their entire livelihood. He needs 2 million baht, Lena said, crying, about 50,000 euros. To pay suppliers and keep the business running. If he does not pay, he loses everything, 50,000 euros. Rick no longer had that much immediately available without significantly reducing his savings. I do not have that much available right now. But you have property in Germany or your apartment. I sold it before I came here. But you have a pension. Stability. You could borrow against future income. Rick hesitated. Taking loans at 66 seemed insane, but Lena's family would lose everything, and if he helped them through this crisis, surely things would stabilize. My bank in Germany might offer me a line of credit, he said slowly. Could you try? Please, I am begging you. This is my family's whole life. Rick contacted Deutsche Bank and explained that he needed a personal loan. They reviewed his creditworthiness, excellent after decades of responsible financial behavior, and his pension, lifelong, stable income. They approved a line of credit, 60,000 euros at 6% interest. Rick borrowed 50,000 and transferred it to the account Lena provided. My father's business account, she said. His savings, 230,000 euros. His debts, 50,000 euros. Net worth, 180,000 euros. Still positive, still manageable, just temporary until her father's business recovered. But the business did not recover. 2 months later, it needed more capital, another 30,000 euros. Rick's credit line could not be expanded further, so he applied for another loan, this time from another lender. They approved 30,000 euros against his pension payments. He transferred it. Savings, 230,000 euros. Debts, 80,000 euros. Net worth, 150,000 euros. By month 14, over a year after meeting Lena, Rick had transferred or borrowed a total of 130,000 euros. His once comfortable retirement had become precarious. And then came the final request. Lena's mother needed emergency surgery. The hospital wanted payment in advance. 140,000 euros. I do not have that, Rick said, finally hitting a wall. I cannot borrow that much, but she will die without the operation. Then we use the health system. Public hospitals. There is no time. She needs surgery now, Lena. I have given everything I can. I went into debt for your family. I cannot borrow more. She looked at him with something he had never seen before. Cold calculation. So you are saying my mother should die because you do not want to help? That is not what I am saying. That is exactly what you are saying. You have credit. You have assets. You just do not want to use them for me. I have used everything. I have borrowed against my future. Obviously not everything. That night Lena did not come home. Or the next night. Or the night after that. Rick tried to call. Phone switched off. He sent text messages. Messages were not delivered. Facebook profile deleted. After 3 days of silence, Rick went to the address Lena had given as her apartment. It did not exist. The building number did not match any structure on that street. He went to the cafe where she said she freelanced. They had never heard of her. He contacted the translation agency she supposedly worked with. No employee with that name. Everything was fake. The career, the family business, the sick mother, the loan sharks, everything invented. Rick sat in his apartment and finally opened his banking apps to see the full damage. German savings, 110,000 euros. German debts, 80,000 euros. Thai account essentially zero. Total transferred to Lena over 14 months, 140,000 euros. Net worth, 30,000 euros. He had started with 350,000. Now he had 30,000 and monthly loan payments of almost 1,000 euros, eating most of his pension. He had not only lost his savings, He had borrowed his own destruction. Rick reported everything to the Thai police. They came, took notes, looked at his bank transfers, asked questions. "You sent this money voluntarily?" one officer asked. "Yes, but under false pretenses." "She lied about everything. But you decided to send it." "She did not force you. She manipulated me." Difficult case. "You gave money to girlfriend." She goes. Thai law very complicated for this situation. They took his statement. He never heard from them again. Rick's Deutsche Bank began sending notices. His loan payments were due. 80,000 euros borrowed at 6 and 7% interest meant monthly payments of about 900 euros. His pension was 3,500 euros monthly. After loan payments, taxes, and basic living expenses, Rick had maybe 1,200 euros monthly to live on. In Thailand that was possible. In Germany it was not. His children found out. Claudia called, her voice a mixture of anger and sadness. "Papa, we heard. The bank contacted Stefan because you listed him as an emergency contact. I am handling it. You are not handling it. You have 80,000 euros in debt with 30,000 in savings. You are 66 years old. How will you ever recover from this?" "I will manage. Come home, please. You can stay with me until we figure something out." But Rick could not face it. He could not face returning to Germany broken and in debt. He could not face the pity of his children and the satisfaction of his ex-wife. He could not bear being the stupid old man everyone had warned him not to become. "I am staying here, Papa. I said I am staying." He hung up. Rick moved out of his nice apartment. 18,000 baht monthly was no longer affordable. He found a tiny studio in Pattaya for 6,000 baht. One room, shared bathroom, no air conditioning. The area was rough, but the price was right. He sold everything valuable he still owned. His watch, his laptop, his camera, collected a few thousand euros and sent it to the bank to show goodwill. But he was trapped, living month to month in Thailand because he could not afford to leave, could not afford to stay anywhere decent, could not afford to do anything but survive. Rick has now been in that Pattaya studio for 6 months. He is 67 years old. He looks older, thinner from bad food, gray from stress, exhausted from the weight of debts he can never repay. His pension comes monthly, 3,500 euros. 900 goes to loan payments, 400 to his studio rent. The remaining 2,200 covers food, utilities, phone, medicine, everything else. He lives on about 70 euros a day. In Thailand, it is possible. Rice, eggs, cheap vegetables, street food when he can afford it. No alcohol, no luxuries, no life beyond basic survival. Deutsche Bank sends monthly letters. The debt does not shrink. At 6 and 7% interest, his payments barely cover the interest. The principal remains. He will die with this debt. It will pass to his estate, which means his children will inherit nothing except his mistakes. Rick spends his days at an expat community center, a donation-funded place where scammed foreigners meet for support. Everyone has a version of his story. Everyone fell for a version of Lena. "Mine was called Apple," says a British man. "Took 18,000 pounds. Fake sick mother, fake business investment. Mine was Weu," says a German. Loan sharks, father's hospital bills, the whole package. 100,000 euros. They exchange stories like war veterans, comparing scars. Every story is different in detail, but identical in structure. Lonely man, professional scammer, invented emergencies, empty accounts. Rick has become a warning. When new expats arrive, optimistic about their Thai girlfriends, the regulars point to Rick. That is Rick. He had 350,000 euros and excellent credit. Now he is deep in debt, lives in a studio, survives on crumbs. Listen to him before you make his mistakes. And Rick tells them about Lena, who spoke German, about the fake career and the educated persona, about loan sharks who did not exist and medical emergencies that were lies, about how he not only gave everything he had, but borrowed against his future to give her more. Some listen. Most do not. My situation is different, they say. She is not like that, they say. I am not stupid like those other guys, they say. And Rick nods, because he said exactly the same thing. Rick sits in his studio most evenings, alone with his decisions. The room is 8 feet wide, a mattress on the floor, a fan that barely works, a window facing an alley. This is what remains of 40 years of work, of 38 years climbing the career ladder, of disciplined living, responsible saving, careful planning. Everything destroyed in 14 months by believing someone who was too good to be true, because that was Lena, too good to be true. An educated, professional Thai woman who spoke German, had her own career, wanted love, not money, who seemed different from every stereotype, every warning, every red flag. She was different. She was more sophisticated, more calculating, more professional in her fraud. The loan shark scheme was brilliant. Rick can admit now. It created urgency. Pay now or violence follows. It justified endless payments, interest that never stopped growing. It prevented police involvement. These people are too dangerous. And it exhausted not only savings, but future income through debt. Rick did not only lose what he had, he lost his future earning potential. His pension will pay his debts until he dies, leaving him nothing except bare survival. His children do not call as often anymore. They have accepted that he is lost, that he will not come home, that this is now his life. They send occasional money, 500 euros here and there, enough to keep him from complete destitution, but not enough to repair what is broken. His ex-wife Brigitte somehow heard what happened. She sent an email. I am sorry this happened to you, but you always put work over family, money over sense. I hope you find peace. It was cruel, but accurate. Rick had spent 40 years prioritizing the wrong things, and his last chance to make it right, he had spectacularly ruined by trusting a professional scammer. The irony was not lost on him. He had been a logistics manager. His entire career revolved around risk assessment, system optimization, problem prevention. He was good at it, excellent even. But confronted with loneliness and a beautiful woman who made him feel important, all his professional judgment evaporated. He became the easiest possible target, a disciplined man desperate to believe that love could repair what 40 years of decisions had broken. Richard Sommerfeld is 67 years old. He lives in a one-room studio in Pattaya and survives on what is left of his pension after debt payments. He came to Thailand with 350,000 euros, hoping for a peaceful retirement. He will leave this life deeply in debt, with no way out. The woman who destroyed him, Tamon Van, Lena Boon Song, if that was even her real name, was never found. The police confirmed there was no business registration under that name, no employment at a translation agency, no family business in Bangkok, no sick mother who needed surgery. Everything was fiction. Every emergency was manufactured. Every tear was performance. And Rick believed everything because she presented exactly what he needed to believe, that an educated, independent Thai woman could truly want a 66-year-old divorced German man. She did not only take his savings. She convinced him to take loans, to borrow against his future, to fall into debts that will follow him to the grave. That is the evolution of fraud. Why only take what someone has when you can take what he can borrow? Rick now spends his days warning others. At the Expat Center, newcomers arrive with stars in their eyes, stories about women they have met, love they have found. Rick sits them down and shows them his bank statements, the before and after. The vanished savings, the accumulated debts. She spoke German, he tells them. She was educated. She had a career. She paid her own way. She seemed nothing like the stereotypes. That is exactly why it worked. Some listen. Many do not. My girlfriend is different, they say. And Rick sees himself reflected in their defiant certainty. The debts will never be paid. At current interest rates, Rick covers the interest, but barely touches the principal. When he dies, probably in that studio room, probably alone, his estate will be negative. His children will inherit nothing, except the less that actor father's final act was to destroy everything he had built over 40 years. The Thai authorities did nothing. German authorities could do nothing. He had voluntarily borrowed and transferred money. No crime was committed, except the crime of being lonely and trusting someone who knew exactly how to exploit it. Rick's story is different from typical bar girl scams. Lena never worked in bars. She met him on a dating app. She presented herself as educated and independent. She built trust slowly, carefully, professionally. And when she finally started extracting money, she did not simply ask for it. She created elaborate emergencies that justified going into debt. That is the sophisticated scam. Not give me money because you love me, but borrow money because I am in danger and only you can save me. And Rick, disciplined and careful his entire life, let himself be drawn into inescapable debt to save someone who was never in danger, from problems that never existed. His warning to others is simple. If it seems too good to be true, an educated, independent, beautiful young woman who wants a real relationship with an older foreigner, it is too good to be true. That presentation is the scam, not despite the fact that it seems legitimate, but because it seems legitimate. The scam has evolved. It is no longer about bar girls asking for money. It is about professional scammers presenting themselves as everything except what you would expect, building trust over months, extracting not only savings, but future income through manufactured emergencies that justify borrowing. Rick did not only lose his money. He borrowed his own destruction, one emergency after another, believing he was saving someone he loved. Now he lives with debts he will never repay. In a room barely larger than a prison cell, surviving on crumbs, warning others who rarely listen. This is Richard Sommerfeld's story. A warning written in debt notices and empty bank accounts. A reminder that the most dangerous scams are the ones that do not look like scams, the ones that look exactly like what you hoped to find. He came to Thailand searching for peace and warmth. He found systematic exploitation that did not only take what he had, but stole his future. His reflection, sitting in his studio as the sun sets over Pattaya: I did not only lose my money, I borrowed my own destruction, and I will pay for it until the day I die. That is the price of believing too much, too quickly in someone who knew exactly what she had to say.